Hey Group B, I just wanted to give you guys a few quick instructions before you begin your day. The first assignment, well, first of all, you're not going to have a bell ringer today, but the first assignment that you are going to start working on is called variation and distribution. It looks like this when you open it up, and I have a separate video for you. When you click on this assignment on Google Classroom, it's going to have the Google Slides, and it's also going to have a video, and that video is me going a little bit more in depth for the instructions. So make sure that you're watching that. You are going to watch it on your Chromebook, so make sure your volume isn't too loud. That way you're not distracting everybody else. But let me just run through this really quick for you. Okay. So the first thing is I give you a couple of vocab words that we have discussed. And again, in that other video that's already on Google Classroom, it goes into detail about some of these definitions. But we talk about distribution, which is kind of a new word. But we've already gone over variation, non-adaptive traits, adaptive traits or adaptations, and then, of course, population. And then I start talking about the graphs and what you're going to be looking at. And I do use two fictional organisms. So these organisms in these examples are not real. And the first one we're looking at is Australope. So Australopes are these weird looking dinosaur creatures. And we are looking at their color. So you can see from the picture, they are yellow, they are blue. You got a couple of green ones right here. And so there's a lot of variation in color. And so every single example, there's 3 examples, is going to have a chart like this with some information on it. And then at the bottom, it's going to tell you about the starting population, the ending population, and what changed in the environment. So first thing is first is when you start looking at these charts, I know that they can be kind of overwhelming, and we haven't really looked at charts since our ecosystems unit, but make sure that you take a second, slow down. This is not an assignment that you're going to be able to just rush through. And so let's look at the title, right? The title is going to tell you what you're looking at. So Australope color variation. So we know there's a variety of color in the Australopes, right? We saw some blues, some yellows, some greens. And then if we look at the y-axis, right, number of Australopes. So we know it ranges from 0 Australopes all the way up to 90. And then on the x-axis, we've got the color level of Australopes. So we can see that this level 1 is going to be more of a blue shade, and this level 10 is going to be more of a yellow. And so right here in the middle, when we're mixing blue and yellow, we're going to get some of those green Australopes. So lots of variation. And then we can see that there's 2 colors being represented. So that blue color is the first generation of Australopes, right? And then the last generation, the ending population, is the 50th generation, and that's going to be represented by the red. And so in the other video, I kind of break this down a little bit more for you in case you're kind of struggling with that. And then, of course, down here, make sure you're reading that. And that's going to give you a little bit more information. So then when you finally get to the writing part, after you have analyzed and looked at the graph, after you've looked at the information about the starting and ending populations in the environment, you're going to go to the next page. And this is where you start writing. Yes, you have to use complete sentences. And yes, you have to use all of the words in this word bank: adaptive trait, distribution, environment, non-adaptive trait, and variation. Okay, so based on the information from the previous slide, how can you explain why the distribution of traits changed in this population? So let's go back, right? How did it shift? How did it go from all of these different color Australopes in the first generation to the ending population, right, the 50th generation, to all of them being the exact same color yellow? How did that happen? And you are supposed to be able to figure this out just from this information and write about it. Okay. And then you've got a couple more examples, right? This one is looking at Australope fur variation. So we're no longer looking at color. Now we're looking at the amount of fur that the Australopes have. And again, it's the same question right here. Explain why the distribution of traits changed in this population. So we go back, we look at the starting population, that first generation in blue, and then we look at the ending population, the last generation in red. And we're looking and reading down here, and we're trying to figure out, how did it shift? How did it change? And then it's the same for this last example. But this last example looks at thorn palms. Again, a fake plant, not a real one. And we're looking at water storage. When we're talking about water storage, plants in real life are able to suck up water into their trunks, and they're able to store it for later. So a cactus would be able to do this. So cacti in the deserts don't get a lot of rain, right? It's the desert, it's dry, it's hot. And so they're able to store a lot more water than other plants. And so that's what we're looking at for this one, right? So again, this changes just a little bit, but we're looking at thorn palm water storage. On the right-hand side, it shows how many, the number of thorn palms. Over here, down here on the x-axis, it shows the water storage level, with level 1 being low water storage, and then level 10 being high water storage. And then we're looking again at the starting population information, the ending population information, and the environment. I want you to do your best on this. I will not be able to email or answer any questions if you reach out during the day, but I want you to do your best. Again, please use complete sentences, and please use all of the words in the word bank. If you feel like this is just too much, or you feel like you're getting this completely wrong, I don't want you to stress about it, because when I get back, we're going to go over it together. But you need to be working on this during class. This should take you the whole class period. If it does not for some reason, I want you to take a second to go back and review and make sure that you've done your best work and you didn't just try to rush through it. If you do get finished early and you say, Ms. Linscott, I did my best, I answered it correctly, I'm done, you can go to this assignment. It's an extra credit assignment, so you don't have to do it. However, if you want some extra credit, if you need some extra points, I would definitely do this. If you have no missing work, if you have missing work, you need to go do that first, and then you can do the extra credit. But this extra credit assignment, it's called How to Make a Venomous Cabbage, and it's just an article with some questions at the bottom. This is just kind of prepping you for our next part of natural selection, which is all about artificial breeding and artificial selection. So again, you've got lots to do. You've got variation and distribution that you're supposed to finish. If you finish this, you make sure that you have no missing work. If you have no missing work, you can do your extra credit assignment. And I think that's it. So I will see you guys on Tuesday. I hope you guys have a good weekend.